All right, let's bring in now former Liberal Senator Hollie Hughes and GXO Strategies Director, former Labor State Director Cameron Milner. Great to see you both. Look, I want to start with your reaction to Angus Taylor's reshuffle today. Cameron, what did you think?
Will actually make a really good Shadow Treasurer matchup against Jim Chalmers. And I think there's some other good matchups there as well. I mean, James Patterson you heard about before, going up with Richard Marles. So I think he's reset the team really well. And let's see how it goes in terms of the next parliamentary session.
Hollie, what do you think? I mean, you know, you are a good friend of Susan Lee's. A lot of the people Susan demoted have now been brought back.
Oh, and look, you know, this always happens when you have leadership changes, that people need to be repaid for whatever they did in the leadership battle and destabilisation leading up to what happened so quickly in Susan's leadership. I agree with Cameron. I think Tim Wilson is probably the pick of the bunch there after what he did in the franking credits, to see hopefully someone actually be able to take the fight up to this incredibly inept finance team that we see, because it's not just Chalmers, it's Katie Gallagher as well. I'm sure Tim will really lead the charge on that.
Cameron, what do you think of the political play and the political environment more broadly at the minute? You know, we've got this extraordinary rise of One Nation. I mean, you heard what Pauline had to say last night. It was very unexpected, but you've got this huge support in the Australian voter base for One Nation. What is that a reflection of to you?
Well, I think it's a reflection of the weakness of both major parties. I mean, everyone thinks it's about the coalition losing votes to One Nation, but Labor's losing votes to One Nation too, to Pauline Hanson. So Hanson's come through the middle because of weak Albanese and, quite frankly, an absent Liberal Party, an absent coalition. So if the coalition get their act together, I suspect that vote will come down. But don't forget that I think there's Labor votes going to One Nation as well on some of the touchstone issues she's talked about.
So, meaning immigration? That's the main appeal, Cameron?
Absolutely. Yes. Yep. Immigration and a sense of kind of injustice that drives the One Nation vote, the culture of complaint. And goodness knows, there's plenty to complain about with the Albanese government.
Hollie, what do you think? Do you think the Liberal Party can rebuild, or do you think this is now this gradual shifting away from it?
Look, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm absolutely riveted to what's going to happen in the Farah by-election, because I think it's going to be really indicative, and I think it's unfortunate. You know, again, on your show, Pauline brought up the comments that Jane had made, unfortunately, which, you know, it's insulting to rural and regional Australians, you know, that she can't get a good cup of coffee and she's got to speak slower when she's talking to them.
I mean, that's actually play those comments, okay, and then you can keep talking about it, Hollie, because last night I hadn't heard of these comments when Pauline was on. Well, I said I'd dig them up. We've got them now. Let's have a look. Coming in a moment.
I'd have to speak a lot slower and talk about the regions more often down in Cocky's Corner. But look, no, to be honest, I am too fond of good coffee and free markets to join the National Party.
I mean, so Hollie, of course it's offensive. She was joking though. This has been dredged up now because she's the deputy Liberal leader. She made them originally in October. Yeah,
but the problem is you don't start in a new role with a completely clean slate. And, you know, whether it's well done, fantastic job, Angus, whatever the tweet he put out about himself was, or, you know, some of the stuff that he said he was going to repeal tax cuts if, you know, Peter Dutton was successful at the election. When you've got a leadership team now that are basically writing the ads themselves from their previous statements for One Nation and Labor, I think it will be problematic for them going forward. And, you know, we just opened a cafe at our pub today, and let me tell you, the coffee's pretty bloody good, Jane, if you'd like one. But country people don't like that. They don't like being spoken down to.
Of course
not.
And
it might be funny, and it might be very funny in the streets of Toorak, not very funny when you're out in the bush facing drought and flood or fires or whatever it might be, that people deride your way of life.
Cameron, you know, on the one hand, Angus Taylor clearly will be, it'll be a more formidable opposition than under Susan Lee. But on the other, there's a lot more material for Labor to work with, right?
There is. And look, you know, Taylor and Hume were senior people in Peter Dutton's team, and both had appalling campaign records, terrible records. So they've got to really fundamentally improve. Now, they did the mea culpa. Let's see whether they actually understand what saying sorry really means, because it's acting differently and campaigning differently.